This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, it's a beautiful thing. Here we go. Where are you at right now?
I am in my Vegas hotel room. I will say I woke up not too long ago.
Yeah, right.
It's been that type of
well, it's noon. It's 12:35 over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. I get it. I get it.
It was a
Vegas,
long.
I get it. You were having some fun last night and all that good stuff. So yeah. I get it right now. It's a long training camp. Good.
It's a long training camp. You get to unwind for a day in Vegas. You got to do it, right?
Yeah. How do they do it over there? Do they practice inside that stadium, or do they practice literally outside in that heat sometimes?
So they practice in Henderson, which is actually not in the stadium. So they practice in like a suburb that's maybe 20, 30 minutes away.
A practice facility, right?
Yeah, and they're practice. So it's kind of like how Davey was for the Dolphins. Like their stadiums in Vegas, their facilities 20, 30 minutes away in the suburbs. So they typically do that. And they practice outside a lot of times. So they do either early morning practice or late afternoon practice to kind of avoid the heat as much as you can. But yeah, it's a lot. I think I've told you this, Big O. I prefer the humidity over the dry heat.
Yeah. I don't like it when it's harder to breathe.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, yo, where's the air? Yo,
yes.
I don't taste anything.
Exactly.
Come here. It's like an oven, and you're like, dude, am I walking in a sauna with a bunch of hotels?
And for me, I always drink water at the middle of the night. Like that's a common thing. But here, I feel like I'm so thirsty all the time. I'm always dry, always thirsty, everything. I don't sweat as much, but it's just like constant lack of moisture.
Right. No, I'm with you.
Yeah, I can't do it. I'll step through a shirt before I do this dry heat.
And I've got to pack my Nature B lip gloss because, dude, my lips get, the second I get out west.
Yep.
It's Vegas. It's not as bad in Southern California, but in Vegas, Jesus Christ, dude, I gotta be putting it on, every hour because when you're outside, forget about it, dude. Everything dries up. It's like it's just different, man. It's just absolutely different out there. Looks like the guy that's kind of an interesting project is the Skylar Thompson kid, and. When you draft a quarterback in the 7th round, most of the time he's not going to make your team. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're lucky if he's even good enough to be on the practice squad usually, okay?
Right.
And everything I see about this kid, and from what I'm told inside the building, he's kind of viewed as ceiling is backup quarterback. Mm-hmm. But man, you watch today, he made the best throw he had made in camp so far in the first couple of weeks. Yeah, he had a really nasty throw, and he's really gifted. I can see why they picked him, because that's what you want in these kind of projects, that you say, okay, physically he has it, but he's so green and everything else. Now we've got to see if he can fine tune his talent that God gave him to play at this level. That's kind of what it is with him. He's got to learn he's got to learn touch passes and things like that. That's something he's got to work, because he's got a bigger arm overall. What have you heard about that kid? What have they told you?
Yeah, I think you're right that when they drafted him, a lot of people were like, hey, why are you picking a quarterback? And so my thought is immediately, okay, this guy's probably a practice squad quarterback. And I think that's probably still where he ends up. You have Bridgewater and 2 on the roster. You're not going to keep 3. But they saw something. And sometimes in quarterbacks, we get so obsessed with what's arm talent and can he do this? They saw that he can maximize his skill set, and is a scrappy dude. And so he fits the mold of the backup quarterback. He kind of feels like a Gardner Minshew ceiling. Like if you can get a Gardner Minshew type player out of him, he's never going to throw the 60-yard bomb down the field, but he's tough as nails. He can run. He's mobile. The big thing for him is he was hurt coming out of college. And so he didn't, not saying he would have got drafted much higher, but they essentially were betting on him to bounce back after not seeing much tape on him last year. So they were hoping that, hey, he can run a lot of the mobility elements of their offense, play some scout team quarterback. And I think they might even be pleasantly surprised at how he's looked maybe in a week or two of training camp. And so that's, every time I was watching the quarterbacks, obviously a third quarterback gets saying, you think, oh, I'm just going to relax. None of this matters. And he would make some nice throws. And I'm like, okay.
There's ability there. There's ability there. There's like that. You see, let's be honest. It's the best arm in camp.
Right.
Let's just be honest. That's the best arm in camp right now. The kid's got a gun, man.
Yeah.
The kid's got he doesn't know where it's going.
Right.
Okay.
but that's part of the young quarterback deal.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's something continue to work developing. And then who knows? Maybe in a year, if Tua proves he's the guy, maybe you decide, hey, we're good there. We don't need a veteran backup. Maybe Skyler can earn that backup job. You don't have to pay Teddy Bridgewater $7 million a year. Maybe that money can go elsewhere. So I think that's probably their ceiling for a guy like him. Maybe in year 2 or year 3, if he can prove that he can, be that sole backup. But this year, probably more of a developmental guy on the practice squad. But definitely has flashed throughout the days I've seen him.
Now, I was sitting with my boy Travis Wingfield and Kyle Krabs, and we were talking, and we were wondering how this conversation went in the offseason, because you look at this team now, right?
Yeah.
And you look at the mess that was on the field last year, and the speed is so much different, dude, from the running backs to the wide receivers, obviously, but it's not just Tyreek and Waddle.
Right.
Stead has got some speed. Azukama has now pleasantly surprised you. Made another big catch today down the field. That he's not just a big kid; he can also run too. Actually, you know what I mean. And you start to look around, and I just wonder how that conversation went, Cam, at the beginning, like when Mike got into that building. All right, Chris, I've looked at the film. Why the fuck are we this slow? Come on, we got to do something here. You know what I'm saying? Because Jesus Christ, the difference on this team now to last year, it's night and day. I tried to get it out of Jalen Phillips today. I tried to ask him about, what you practiced against last year compared to what you're practicing against now, but he stayed very vanilla and didn't really want to be. But can you think about, you could tell philosophically that everything changed. It's so obvious, right?
Yeah. I think that you see McDaniel was very clear when he got here of what he prioritized and speed. And you kind of hear that. It's like, yeah, we all like fast dudes, but it's different. Like when that is a top priority, like every dude I want to have a fast football team. Like you always want strong, fast, athletic, but specifying speed makes your team more dimensional. And honestly, it gives you more margin of error. So like if Tua's off on a throw by a yard or two, but Tyreek beats his dude by 4 yards, right, then you have that margin of error. If you have Devontae Parker as your receiver and he's beating a dude by a half a yard and Tua's off by a half a yard, then that's a pass breakup. And so speed gives you margin of error. On defense, a guy makes a wrong first step, he can recover because he has a team speed. And so when I watched this team in previous years, especially against Buffalo, lack of speed showed up on defense. Good defense, lack of speed showed up. On offense throughout the season, we saw that lack of speed showed up where Tua's not going to have the time, to get the ball off because of the offensive line, but also a guy who he can just jump the ball off for 5 yards and take it outside of Jalen Waddle. And so I'm eager to see it. I think there's been a lot of, that 4, 5, 6 receiver battle has been fun to watch because I think I came in with my mind thinking, okay, Preston Williams and Lynn Bowden were guys who probably had a heads up on that job. And now I think that they might be on the outside looking in. And it's, guys like, Braylon Sanders competing for that job. Ezekama is obviously going to be on the team. You got guys like Trent Sherfield, who's been looking good. Guys who are different dynamic elements of players than maybe we anticipated. And so, I think it's going to be interesting to watch how it all comes together. I mean, we hadn't even mentioned Raheem Mostert. Guy is
I mean, it's just
maybe the
it's all
fastest
over
dude,
the damn
maybe the
place, bro.
fastest dude on the team, you know. So it makes the Dolphins more fun to watch, but I think it'll make them better as well.
Yeah, and listen, I talked about this earlier in the week when you had Duper and Clayton here, and obviously I'm old enough because I lived it. Those guys were fast.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are in another gear, bro.
Yep.
They're on another gear. I mean, Duper is close to these guys. Clayton was fast, but not like these guys. What Clayton was a freak of an athlete. Like he could go up in the air. He could jump higher than anybody that was a foot taller than him.
Right.
And he had body control and he had strength. I mean, there was, you could go back if you want, you go on YouTube and go Battle of the Network Stars and all that, and you'll see Clayton there, and he'll be squatting 500 pounds. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Clayton was a special athlete. Okay. You know what I mean? But not like these guys. These guys are different.
Yep.
These guys are at another gear. They're they're slightly faster than Duper. Yep. But then the most dangerous thing about these guys is that they can change directions on the drop of a dime. They don't have to slow down. And to me, that is going to create so many advantages for everybody, because you started this conversation talking about what? Getting separation, right?
Yep.
All you see out there when Waddle and Tyreek are running, except when X is covering them, is separation. Right. You know, X, in the last 2 days, X is gone. I don't know what happened. He said, F this, I'm going to lock you guys down.
Yeah. So I'm asking you, I know we talked about this offseason. Do you still want to trade X?
No, not now that he has no more of these stupid ass salary issues. No.
Gotcha.
Not anymore. We're not dealing with domestic issues anymore. We're not dealing with knee issues anymore right now. Looks like whatever he did that last time 2 years ago, it worked.
Right.
And we're not dealing with every year it's a contract thing. And so to me, that's not you can't have that. You gotta either shit or get off the pot.
Right.
And so they finally gave him his money.
I'd imagine this will be the last kind of big contract deal for X.
For sure.
And so ideally it's settled. But he's been one of those like it's interesting, just kind of brief aside. Mike McDaniel has been very careful in taking care of his vets throughout training camp. You know, we haven't seen a lot of Teron Armstead or Raheem Mostert or coming off injury. A lot of these guys have taken some days off. They had a load management day for Tyreek and Chase Edmonds the other day. But X has been out there very frequently. And that, you know, I don't know if it's him wanting to stay out there or if it's McDaniel, but I think that, you know, people worry, oh, you give a guy a new deal, is he going to lack motivation, that sort of thing. No, if training camp's any indication, this dude is coming out to prove that he's a top 3 corner and people should continue to respect him as such. So that's the element. Like we talk so much about the new additions on offense. I think that's one element on defense, just kind of seeing the guys that not only take a next step, but also solidify themselves at who they are. So Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, we talked a lot about those guys taking next step. But if you get Xavier Howard, Emmanuel Ogbah, some of these players, Christian Wilkins, who have already been good to continue to be good, then that gives you that margin of error for the offense as well.
It's been the last 2 days, been a lot of fun watching when X lines up against the top guys, and it's been pretty cool watching that battle. You just don't beat the guy much, you know. It's just it's pretty amazing. Now, let me go to this other thing. And I was going to talk about this on the show. I think Waddle, you know, like today, he high pointed a ball down the sideline that Tua threw, and he caught it. And it was a lot like the one that he had a high point last year that Tua rolled out to the left and threw that high pass. You remember that he high pointed it? And so, and these are things that we didn't get to see a lot from him because he was playing from the slot.
Right.
Which, let's be honest now, he has no business being the slot. Not that he can't do it. He can dominate from the damn slot, but he's an outside receiver, bro. He's too good to be inside at the slot. He is so valuable to go on the outside and just create havoc. But I think what people don't realize much, or maybe it's not realizing, it's kind of overlooking, because The kid was such a phenomenal team player last year. Didn't complain. Didn't say anything. He said, all right, coach, this is what you need from me. I'll do it. I'll get it done. And he did it. But I think what he proved right away that he is a complete wide receiver.
Yep.
That he can work the underneath. He could go over the top. He can high point the ball. And then he can also play the slot.
Yep.
And play the slot with a toughness too. Because last year, unlike this year, you literally don't know who's going to get the ball.
Right.
Last year, 98% of the time, it was going to go to Waddle. Yep. And then there was, everybody else was injured or whoever played part-time or whatever. And Gesicki was barely used and all that. So you knew that's how good this guy is. You knew it was going to Waddle and you still couldn't stop it.
Yep.
To me, that's what Waddle has already proven to you. And I'm saying Dolphin fans, that he is a complete wide receiver, that you can do anything and everything with him, because what he's going to do this year is what he was already doing for years at Alabama.
Right.
What he did last year was something he had never been asked to do. And for him to do it and excel at it and catch over 100 passes, I think it shows his greatness. Agree or disagree?
Oh, absolutely. I've said this, and it's weird to say because, like, none of us are going to sleep on Jalen Waddle. We know how good he is, right? But, like, so much attention is on Tyreek. Like, Jalen Waddle's the number one receiver. Like, you have two number one receivers on this team. I saw enough in him as a rookie to know that, like, it would not shock me. Actually, I expected for them to have both 1,000-yard seasons. Like, I don't remember the last time the Dolphins, I had to look up the numbers. Hopefully it's more recent than Clayton and Duper, but I know, I'd imagine that 1,000-yard seasons for both Tyreek and Waddle are in the book. And Waddle, just watching him in training camp, like you talk about battles with X and Tyreek, Jalen Waddle and X have had some really, really good battles. Like, and Jalen actually has won a fair amount of them. And X doesn't lose many one-on-ones. So I'm excited for Jalen. And I think the big thing for Jalen, and he touched on this when we did an interview for NFL Network, is that he was so horizontal in everything he did. But subtly, more and more, you've seen him add more vertical in this offense. Yeah. And so Tyreek won't be the only deep threat. Everybody, like, Tyreek obviously is the deep threat, but Jalen, I think you're gonna see more of what he did in college, along with some of the stuff he did last year, and more of a mixed bag. And there's more diversity because you can have Tyreek in the slot, you can have Jalen in the slot, you can have Cedric Wilson in the slot, and all of them can play outside as well. And so that's that fun matchmaking.
Yeah, but think about being the free safety.
Yeah,
you don't have time. Yep. And you're going to have to make a quick commitment to one side or the other, right? Which I think Tua is going to have a field day with this, because you're going to have to free somebody up, and both guys are going to be able to get behind 99% of the cornerbacks in this league. Right. Very few of them are going to run stride for stride. Most of them are going to be right behind them, and once you do that with Tua's accuracy, he's going to drop it right in front of the guy. 99% of the time also. So to me, that's the other thing about the speed on the outside. It just opens everything up, and that free safety. I don't know if that guy gets a minute of sleep the night before he has to face those two guys.
I am intrigued to see the one thing that we won't know until September. Maybe I guess we'll see some in preseason, is how defenses, like, what coverages they go about it playing these guys. Like last year,
can't bracket both.
Right. In Kansas City, they played a lot of too high safety, right? And they tried to force Patrick Mahomes to dink and dunk because they felt like he wasn't going to be patient. But Tua's a different quarterback, as we know, obviously. And to me, it would almost seem the opposite, because the narrative is Tua can't throw deep. So maybe they play a lot of single high safety and challenge Tua to throw deep. But then what if he proves he can do it? And how do they adjust to that? Like, that's the fun element for me, to see how defenses go about it, because there's no right answer. Like,
and think about this. Remember, with Sed and Gesicki, you now have big targets in the middle, because Sed is a big slot, which your slot normally is not a big guy. But in this case, you have a big slot. So that free safety is going to move one way or the other. The middle of that field is going to be wide open.
Right.
And that's where Gesicki and Said are going to end up having a field day.
Yeah.
You know, with all of this. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, I'm sure he's like, and let me ask you something, because we've talked about this a couple times throughout the week, and we talked about it today in the stands. The tight end is not being used a lot, and that's used a lot in this offense, always.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, there's a couple things. It's either one, they don't want to show a lot of it until they get to the regular season. They kind of know that Gesicki can catch, so they're not that worried about that. Or they're so worried about the running game and that the tight ends block that they're more focusing on the tight ends early on to be blockers to make sure that they get the running game going. I don't know what it is.
So I think my initial guess, like I said, I haven't talked to McDaniel about this, but my initial guess is that you're right. The core of this offense will be the run game, and it takes time to get that established. And so a lot of that comes through knowing your assignments, focusing on blocking and movement. And so, yeah, the tight ends have been really quiet. And honestly, Gesicki's been pretty invisible. But I've seen a lot of, Durham Smythe getting playing time and as a blocking tight end. And so I do wonder.
Name of that crazy ass offensive coordinator with the Rams, who then became the head coach after Vermeil won the title. Then he went to the Lions. The offense looks like his offense, that they never used the tight end. I forgot the guy's name now.
Right.
Damn it. But anyway, that's what it reminds me.
So that is the one thing I am curious about. And, there was kind of some under the radar stuff about Mike Gesicki that kind of caught some people's eyes, kind of Mike McDaniel saying he's got, 10 million reasons to be happy. And, Gesicki kind of making, hey, maybe I should have complained like the other guys because that gives them new contracts. I honestly don't know how Mike Gesicki fits in this offense. Like, I know a lot of Dolphins fans are like, Gesicki, you make it work. And I think they're going to try to make it work. But would it shock me if, Gesicki is the odd man out in the offense that has a lot of mouths to feed? No. I mean, like, ideally you're saying, hey, he's a big target. You should be able to work it out. But with Hill and Jalen going to get as many targets as they're expecting to do, the running backs are going to be such a key element in the passing game as well. And the run game is going to be the core of this offense. And you got Cedric Wilson. There's just not going to be a lot of balls around. So it would not surprise me if they have less routes run for their tight end, this year than they have in previous years. And Gesicki mentioned it before. He's been playing a lot of inline tight end versus out slot receiver, which he's done in the past. And I have never been a huge fan of trying to force Mike Gesicki to be a blocker. It's just not what he does. You can try to help him. You try to work on him. You can try to have him in to chip. But if you're going to have him in as a true inline blocker, try to have him be your George Kittle, I just don't think that's going to work out in your favor as a blocker.
But if somehow he figures out to be a decent blocker, he actually will end up making himself even more money next offseason.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So there is that opportunity for him to add a little extra jingle to his value if he can be a two-way tight end. All right, follow him on Twitter at Cameron Wolfe and catch his work there at the NFL Network. When you back this week? Or you back you going to Tampa?
So I may go to Tampa on Thursday. I'm going to Cincinnati and Indianapolis. I'm going to Cincinnati tonight and going to be there Sunday, Indianapolis Monday. Then I'm coming back to Miami. We're on set live from NFL Network, our last day of Inside Training Camp on Wednesday. So they're going to have like 6 or 7 people on set. Steve Smith will be there, Ian Rappaport, a few other people. So they're full there, so I won't be there Wednesday. But they may have me come up Wednesday during the day and then be on TV Thursday from joint practices. So I'll keep you guys posted on that.
There you go. Got a steak at Burns. All right, follow him on Twitter at Cameron Wolfe. Have you had the escargot there at Burns Steakhouse?
No, I've not.
The best escargot on the planet is there.
Really?
Yes.
That might be worth
you like escargot?
Yeah.
Trust me. Trust me on this.
Right.
Okay? All right.
I'll check it out.
All right, Cam. We'll catch up next week, my friend. Safe in your travels, right?
You too.
You got it. There you go. Cameron Wolfe. The Wolf Pack has been unleashed.
is the Big O Show.